Because the passive voice does not tell us who it was or what it was that did the action, it only tells us that the subject received the action. We usually have what we call an agent, um, expressed by the preposition by. Uniskon was hit by the ball in New Testament Greek, hupo plus the genitive, or more rarely, dia plus the genitive uh, would be the preposition that would be used, and we would translate in English, usually with the word by, uh, expressing the agent. Sometimes para plus the genitive is used by certain authors, but essentially it all means the same. There was a person who did the action. An impersonal instrument, the difference between an agent and an instrument is that an agent is a person, whereas an instrument is a thing that does the action, is expressed by the dative case by itself, or in the preposition in plus the dative, in which case, if we use in plus the dative case, for example, he was baptized by water. In hudatri, by water. In plus the dative case. And of course there is a division of, does that mean in the water or by the water? But he was baptized is passive voice because it happened to the person. We cannot baptize ourselves anyway. We should not. We are baptized by God into a relationship with Christ, and that is expressed by a brother or sister in Christ baptizing the person who has become a believer. I include some pages from a grammar by Dr. Daniel Wallace, and you can see here the agent, the ultimate agent. Sometimes we have an intermediate agent, especially if God is the ultimate agent, but he did it through some means, then that might be expressed by, especially by dia, the preposition dia plus the genitive, or if it's impersonal means, it could be in with the dative, or just the dative with no preposition, or sometimes, very rarely, with ek plus the genitive. You notice that all of these basically mean by. So another chart to show us in the active voice, the subject acts upon the object, or the subject is described by the predicate, in which case the predicate ho theos in ho logos, the word was God, John 1:1. It does not take an object, it just simply takes a predicate in the nominative case which describes the subject, but it's still in the active voice. In the case of the middle voice, the subject is much more involved in the action. In fact, the focus of the communication is upon the action more than it is upon the subject. And that's why we have this middle voice. And then, of course, we have our concentration right now, the passive voice, in which the action happens to the subject. I'm taking time to give you all this introduction because up until now we have oversimplified by saying we have the active voice and then we have deponent verbs. Actually, there's a great discussion whether deponent verbs really exist in Greek. And it will probably continue because our time in the New Testament was a time of transition. as far as language was concerned. Here's some more information about the middle voice. In general, in the middle voice, the subject performs or experiences the action expressed by the verb in such a way that emphasizes the subject's participation. It may be said that the subject acts with a vested interest. The difference between the active and the middle is one of emphasis. The active voice emphasizes the action of the verb. The middle voice emphasizes the actor, the subject of the verb. The difference can be expressed to some degree in English translation. For many middle voices, especially the indirect middle, putting the subject in italics would communicate this emphasis. But most English translations simply use an active translation because we don't have the middle voice in English. But let me give you some examples of what the middle voice does. If we take the, in fact, I will stop. I think I will make this one video segment. Otherwise, these files get too large, and we'll continue with this with the next segment.